and I'll fly into the end of the sky. So I'll be the one who doesn't have to say goodbye.
Hey guys, I'm Brony Shoutouts. It's my club video called Conflict Between Dusk and Twilight. My Little Pony Fanfic reading. GRIMDARK. Mystery Drama. It is 1 hour, 24 minutes and 41 seconds long. Oh, yes! Yes, it's another Mother Clubber video by Sparrow. And Dusk and Twilight. Twilight. I don't know what the conflict is. No, I don't know what the conflict is. There's only one way to find out. Let's get the session started. 3, 2, 1, go. Scribble out. Mother Clubber 2020. Back to basics there, isn't it? The following story could take place in an alternative universe. Anything is non-canon to be considered as irrelevant. Okay. Warning. The following video contains content that some viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Sparrow presents. Oh, can't wait. Come on. Sparrow reads. Conflict between dusk and twilight. And sunset. Technically. Classical music. I've heard the classical music before though.
In the courtyard of Canterlot Castle, the aspiring students of Princess Celestia went about their business, socializing, and sharing knowledge with one another.
Yes, that's true. We zoomed in, by the way.
Day within the royal capital city of Equestria. The
Canterlot.
birds chirping many tunes in the many trees across the large clearing of vegetation, and the city sprawling with both the nobles and lower-class ponies alike.
Hopefully not Prince Blue
All
Blood.
except for the young unicorn, Twilight Sparkle.
Twilight
Occupied
Sparkle.
in her own little area, with a book hiding her face from the rest of her classmates.
Typical Twilight, isn't it? Reading a
No
book.
pony paid her any attention, knowing that she preferred to be alone, rather than associating with any pony else.
And missing Reading Dulce's
Something that most
party.
of the others found bizarre, but at the same time, really didn't bother to care about.
No.
Some of them had made an attempt to befriend Twilight,
Yeah.
but only received either a dirty look or nasty remark as a result,
Yes.
earning Twilight both a bad reputation and giving any other individuals
Reputation?
a hint that she preferred to be alone.
I don't know about that.
Therefore, the
Anyway.
young unicorn sat under a shaded tree, accompanied only by the book shielding her face, a
Much,
notebook, and a lone drink off.
that's
to the
that's
side.
like a Hermione Granger, really.
She was currently enveloped in a piece of literature about advanced magic, taking notes on the many spells and how to perform them.
Definitely like Hermione
Twilight
Granger.
had an obsession with magic, and
No,
everything
really?
to do with the subject itself. And while
don't
she struggled with
say!
even casting the simplest of spells, she was more than determined to learn everything she possibly could learn about magic and
Yep.
all of its properties.
Well,
A feat
something
that she had
unicorn
come
will
to
do,
realize
doesn't
was
it?
hard to
Study
accomplish
magic.
on her own, but being stubborn, she refused any sort of help from any of her classmates or even the princess herself.
Applejack was like that as well.
Princess Celestia herself had eyed Twilight's demeanor and actions towards her other classmates, and had found it sad and very depressing on how one of her top students preferred to go about her goals so lonesomely.
Yeah.
On top of that, she had her own challenge to deal with.
What
her current
challenge?
protege.
Oh yeah.
Sunset Shimmer, a very talented and determined unicorn that
Oh,
had
Sunset!
exceeded her expectations during her years of attendance at her school.
Where's Sunset
While
now then?
Sunset was talented, there was one problem with her that matched Twilight's preferred introverted lifestyle.
What's that?
Both of them were focused more on knowledge and less on socialization with any pony.
Yeah.
Just like Twilight, Sunset spent more time in libraries.
Oh, there's
out
Twilight!
And about
I
with
can
both
see
her
the tail!
classmates and the citizens of Canterlot, wanting to learn more and more on how to expand her
is
talents
she a
with
filly
magic
there?
and much more. Celestia had tried to address Sunset on the matter, but she merely ignored
I
it.
think she's a
Feeling
unicorn.
like she
No,
didn't need
an
friends,
she's a unicorn,
she was
she's not an
protege of the
unicorn.
Princess of Equestria. She already had all she needed, so why would she need friends? She only saw it as something that would get in the way of her goals, just like Twilight did. That was enough for Celestia to resort to a plan that would solve the problem with both of the mares, killing
What's
two
that?
birds with one stone.
Oh, that's common phrase, isn't it?
I still don't understand why you're making me do this.
Who's that?
Said Sunset, standing alongside
Oh, it's
her
Sunset!
talented mentor.
My student, you have been focused on one thing for too long.
That's
Celestia
good.
started,
That's a good
eyeing her
Celestia
protege
there.
with a kind expression.
Definitely not World Cake.
If you ever plan to expand your knowledge, you must be willing to learn from others, not just literature books.
That's true.
What makes you so confident that I'll learn anything from her specifically?
Sunset questioned indignantly.
She's one of my most successful students, Sunset.
Just like you.
Celestia replied.
Much like you, she only wishes to learn all that she possibly can,
Really?
but refuses to try learning from others.
Yeah.
I feel that you two can benefit from one another.
Benefit.
Even if
How?
it's only for the sake of knowledge.
And friendship. Maybe.
Sunset groaned in ignorance, knowing she had no choice in this matter, holding a look of disapproval on her face.
It's like an order, Sunset.
Fine.
Fine.
I'll try talking to her.
Sunset responded.
And
in
be a
nice
ship
tone.
together.
Very good.
Celestia responded simply.
I expect a legitimate attempt as well. As much as a report on what you learned while associating with her.
And if she refuses?
Sunset
That's like
questioned.
Harry Potter tried to talk to
She
Slughorn.
won't. Now off you go, Sunset.
Off you trot.
Celestia stated. Sunset obeyed, slowly walking from the castle entrance, down the staircase, and out into the courtyard. Upon noticing the
Courtyard
Princess
is quite
Equestria
empty, isn't
out
it?
in the open, glances from Celestia's other students were exchanged.
Yeah.
Sunset felt as if she were being spotlighted.
Oh, it's
upon her
Sunbutt.
approach towards
Hello,
Twilight,
Sunbutt.
making her fruitless attempt to achieve Celestia's demands all the more uncomfortable, especially considering who
That's
she was
good art.
walking
I like that
towards.
artwork, actually. I like that artwork.
She practically had an
It
audience.
almost looks like
came to a
Fetters.
stop right in front of the lavender unicorn buried in a world of literature and notes.
Notes. Lots of
Sunset
notes.
took a moment to pause
And they're always
think
in the
of
middle
how
of the
to even get
page.
Twilight's attention, her demeanor seeming awkward and unsure. The golden-clad mare took a deep breath inward.
You need a
and
comb,
took her best
Twilight.
shot at starting a conversation.
Oh, God.
Excuse me.
Hi.
Sunset murmured, her tone seeming choked and uncomfortable.
I know that music. It's that
Her
Scribblers
selfless
music.
attempt to get Twilight's attention had worked. The book lowering.
Oh,
and revealing
Ponish.
Violet irises, her face holding a look of annoyance.
Yes.
What do you want?
What do you want?
Twilight spoke with mild irritation.
I'm kinda busy with something.
Sunset tried to find
She's a
words,
filly. She's a
but they
filly there.
seized in her throat, and she expressed an awkward smile that caused Twilight
Like
to raise her
Luna.
eyebrow. Although a moment of silence passed between the two, the golden cloud
The sound, the
to
silence.
hold the same awkward and unusual smile that made her appear as a crazed mare.
Smile.
Look, if you need something, pick up the pace.
Twilight demanded.
Ooh.
Sunset
Rude.
jumped, not expecting Twilight to be such a hasty and demanding individual. The words finally escaped Sunset's throat, coming
And?
out more objective than she had intended.
Look,
Look.
I'm no happier to be in this predicament as much as you, so give me a break.
Twilight raised another eyebrow, eyeing Sunset with curiosity.
Predicament? What the
What?
hey are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Yeah, what are you talking
Twilight
about?
snapped back.
Great job, Sunset.
Sunset chastised herself in her mind, realizing she had just made the worst first impression she could have ever made towards the mare before her. But one
Friend.
positive out of the entire endeavor was that she still had Twilight's attention.
Yeah.
Therefore, she took advantage while the opening was still there.
Go for it.
She sighed, calming herself down in hope that she could rebound from her first attempt at making conversation.
Look.
Forget what I just said, Twilight.
She said calmly.
Very calmly.
I'm not much of a pony for conversation. So this is just as awkward as it seems.
Yes.
Twilight's eyes went wide
Oh,
with confusion.
that's a bit fast paced there, isn't it?
How do you know my name?
Twilight questioned.
Celestia?
I don't recall you being in any of my classes or ever associating with you outside of school.
Oh, I'm Princess Celestia's personal protege. I know the names of almost every pony in Canterlot. It's not a requirement, just something you pick up on naturally.
Yes. Really?
Princess
Sunset
Celestia's
is-
protege? Yeah, right.
You're older though.
Twilight replied.
Sunset is older.
It's true.
Very true.
Sunset capitalized.
I doubt the ruler of Equestria would put all of her trust into a pony who can't even make conversation with other ponies.
You can't do the same,
Twilight
Twilight.
objected.
Says a pony who talks to her books and has never made any sort of attempt to associate with anybody else.
Ooh, I should put the book me there. Ooh.
Twilight attempted to laugh back, but held her words in her throat, realizing that Sunset was right.
Very right.
Upon Twilight's contemplation, Sunset spoke out to Twilight once again.
Once again.
In fact,
In
I
fact,
can
what?
prove that I'm her protege.
How?
Sunset proposed.
How?
Try anything, and I guarantee I can pull it off.
Twilight took the mayor's proposition to her
Magic
advantage,
trick,
and
maybe?
decided to see if this pony that had approached her out of nowhere could actually hold to her words.
She can.
Grabbing her notebook where she had written down a list of spells that required very advanced unicorns to perform, she held it out to Sunset.
Perform any of these spells, and then I'll believe you.
I thought that was a face mask. I thought that was a face mask.
Book I'm looking over. So it'll take some strong magic skills to pull any of these off.
Sunset
You can do.
eyed the book
You
in
can do it.
Twilight's lap,
Sunset.
curious of how advanced this magic really was.
Very advanced.
Mind if I see the title of the book you have?
Sunset asked. Twilight rolled her eyes, seeing the mare before her had just completely ignored her proposition. But she didn't argue and lifted the book to where the hardback cover could be seen.
Show us.
Once
What's-
Sunset saw the cover, she immediately burst into laughter, causing Twilight to grow confused
What's so
and
funny?
lost, up until Sunset came out of her fit and spoke.
Oh, please! Those spells are child's play. I mastered those years ago.
Technically, it's not Child's Play because
Sunset claimed
that's a
encouragement.
totally different franchise.
You can't be serious.
Twilight snapped back.
She's playing with you.
Spells would take years to learn and master. Some pony like you wouldn't even fit that area of expertise.
Really?
Watch and learn, Philly.
Watch and
Sunset
learn.
claimed, taking the notebook in her magic and reading the first spell on the list.
What's it on this?
Transfiguration.
We're
A
gonna.
sudden burst of light blue magic
McGonagall.
ignited Sunset's horn, turning her focus on a spare tree branch
Professor
and to
McGonagall.
Twilight, quickly being wrapped in a magical aura.
That is stick abuse.
At first, nothing happened, but then Twilight watched as the tree branch wriggled and morphed into many different forms, eventually taking the form of a red apple, following with a pop. The Lavender Filly's jaw dropped, eyeing the fruit on the ground.
Apples.
Her stunned gaze turned from the apple to the unicorn above her, holding a smug grin on her face with no sign of struggle.
No.
Go on. Try it. And
Try
you'll
it.
see that I wasn't lying when I said I could perform such an advanced spell.
Sunset proposed.
Yeah.
Twilight followed, grabbing the apple in her own magic and taking a small bite out of the fruit. She expected to be met with a rough texture that resembled the bark of a tree and a bland taste, but was amazed as her taste buds danced.
Taste
at the
delicious.
juice caressing the surface of her tongue.
That's what she
Taste
said.
devoid of anything she had originally thought. As she chomped down on the shred of the apple that once was a branch, she couldn't believe
How
what
did it
she was
taste?
tasting.
What was it? What are you
Part of
tasting?
her wanted to spit it out, but she didn't. It only continued to chew until it was to the texture of applesauce and gulped it down into her belly.
Mmm.
It tasted just like any other regular apple she had eaten in her life.
Delicious.
But how?
Twilight muttered.
I told you,
Magic?
Twilight.
Magic.
Sunset replied nicely.
I'm Princess Celestia's protege.
Yes.
I know almost any form of magic that you can name. Minus the darker forms of magic.
Oh.
The princess told me that those are
Yet.
strictly forbidden.
Yet.
Along with any other form of dark magic.
Not Voldemort then.
Twilight couldn't argue. The display of magic she had just witnessed was enough to throw away all doubts on the unicorn before her not being qualified to be her ruler's right hoof mare.
No?
You didn't even break a sweat. Yet I struggle with just a simple light spell.
You're just
Not
a
fair. I studied for hours upon hours, but you seem to do it so fast.
years and years, Twilight.
Twilight barked. Sunset suddenly felt something spark within her, remembering her early days of learning the simplest forms of magic as much as her
You all
struggles.
start from somewhere, Twilight.
She felt for the filly before her and understood her frustration. So she quickly decided to sympathize with her in a way that she knew Twilight would deem acceptable.
What's that?
Look, I get it.
Sunset started, resting herself on the ground.
Oh,
More than you may think.
really?
Twilight looked up, her face holding a look of annoyance.
Annoyance.
You don't know anything about me. Up until now, you never even knew I existed. Just leave me alone.
Oh, Twilight.
Sunset had expected this, so she kept her distance.
I know the music.
She didn't take the words as an act out of spite.
No.
She had been where Twilight currently was in the field of learning magic, how
Yes.
to master it, and trying to find your inner
And master
strength
it,
to
you
perform
will.
correctly and efficiently. It took more than just reading books and taking notes. This was
Dedication.
where Sunset was at the time when she had found her inner strength, then was guided by Celestia in her quest to become a master at magic.
Master.
The inner spark ignited once again, causing Sunset to act.
Twilight Sparkles.
Twilight, I've been where you are.
Yeah.
Therefore, I know how hard it is.
Very hard.
Sunset consoled nicely.
It's going to take more than books to master magic.
Yes.
Trust me. I thought books were the key to meeting the same goal
No.
you are trying to
No.
reach.
No.
Eventually, I learned otherwise.
You got to.
Twilight's expression.
You can't
changed
study.
quickly
Some things you
from
can't
annoyance
study from
to
books.
understanding, but she didn't speak, allowing Sunset to continue.
That's pathetic against dark heart
It
sort of
took
thing.
A teacher, a master, some pony that had ascended from student to mentor.
Harry
Me?
Potter?
That was Princess Celestia.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen overnight.
No.
It took years of learning.
I did say
Hours
that.
of practice.
Hours
Multiple
and
failures
hours.
before I eventually succeeded. And a
You
lot
gotta
of
get-
confidence in myself.
You got to get failure before you
Magic
get
isn't
success.
an easy thing to master and requires more than just literature to do so.
That's true.
Twilight held the same expression, looking at Sunset with unsure eyes.
Where are you going with this?
I want to
Twilight
help you.
asked, unsure. Sunset approached closer, knowing she had Twilight's attention.
Yeah.
Well, if you'd like, I can
Okay.
teach you what I know.
Help.
I've only shown you a mere fraction of what I can do. and can show you more. But that's up to you, Philly.
Yes.
Sunset proposed confidently. Twilight jumped
Except-
at the offer. No pony had ever cared or even dared to propose such a mighty feat with her. But
Friendship.
here she was, being given such a proposal.
Yes. Take it, Twilight.
Sorry? Did I hear that right? You? Teach me?
Yes,
Twilight
you.
muttered. Sunset nodded.
If you want me to.
Yes.
You and I aren't much different, Twilight. You have the persistence. You just lack the proper needs to accomplish what you seek.
Yeah.
I have the knowledge of our fair princess, but only if you want to take this chance will I share it.
Share it.
Twilight sat, baffled, still unsure if all that she had just heard was fact or fiction.
It's true, Twilight.
She only knew two things about the mare before her.
What's that?
She was the protege of Princess Celestia, and her magic abilities were miraculous, without a doubt. Yet
Yes.
some pony of such stature was willing to teach her, a struggling student,
It's
of
friendship,
Matriarch, all she
in a
knew
way.
about magic and how to properly master it?
Friendship is magic, by the way.
Special about me that you, the right hoof mare of Princess Celestia, would take time out of her schedule to teach some filly like me such things.
Because I believe in
Twilight asked forwardly.
Honestly,
you. I don't know.
know. I guess you could call it unicorn intuition.
Ooh,
After all, we both are unicorns.
that's true.
Sunset responded. Twilight giggled at that, knowing Sunset was joking around. Then she felt something inside of her erupt. A spark of some sort that startled her. Eyeing Sunset, she smiled, surprising Sunset as much as the lavender filly.
Alright, I'll take your offer.
Yeah.
The sudden confusion made Sunset realize that she had never even properly introduced herself. She wanted to face Hoof herself so hard, but shrugged her self-conflict aside with a heavy sigh, smiling at the filly before her and finding the words to say next.
What's she gonna say next?
Oh, I never introduced myself.
I'm Sunset.
My name is Sunset Shimmer.
Sunset said sheepishly.
Barris.
Twilight giggled again, feeling the conflict in Sunset's voice.
Sorry, I don't know what that was.
She just held her gaze and responded back to the mare.
It's nice to meet you, Sunset Shimmer. No need for me to introduce myself, seeing as you already know my name.
Yeah,
Twilight
Twilight.
proposed. A set of laughter followed between the two, which resorted in the surrounding audience of fellow students, gasping in shock.
Wow, she's my
Twilight
friend!
Sparkle, the filly who never spoke to any pony unless addressed to do so, associating with the princess's protege. An action that seemed quirky to them, but from beyond the courtyard, Princess Celestia spectated the event unfolding in the courtyard.
Her plan
knowing
is
at the
forming
fact
in her
that her
hooves.
student had successfully made her first friend.
A future ship? I don't know.
The day had departed, along with Sunset Shimmer returning to her provided bedchambers, planning to write a report of the day's events,
Bedchambers.
mainly her meet and befriending of Twilight Sparkle. The two had shared stories in the many following hours of daylight, and had made plans to meet up for lessons on magic, which was hard to arrange accordingly, given Sunset's role as Princess Celestia's protege.
Yeah.
She had much to attend within the next couple of weeks, but she had sworn to find an opening in her swamped schedule for her new and only friend.
Only friends?
Closing the door to her provided bedroom, she quickly proceeded to laying out a piece of parchment paper on her desk, grabbed a quill and an aura of magic, and dipped it into her desktop inkwell, caressing the writing utensil's tip gently across the surface.
I like the magic phone. We should
She
change
started
the
with a
picture
simple
here.
introduction, Feeling silly that she had to address her mentor, even after years of being guided and taught much by said mentor.
Yeah.
Giggling to herself in her mind, she continued writing, explaining every little thing that had occurred earlier that day.
Every
It
little
didn't take
thing
her
she
long
does.
to write everything out, her writing pace seeming efficient enough, seeing as she guided the quill with careful focus, she found herself smiling and even making gestures like a giddy filly. It didn't seem to bother her though, and she only continued to write more.
It's a friend,
and
isn't
more,
it?
pauses only being taken in between dips in the inkwell, and when she eventually found herself at the bottom of the page.
Oh?
This caught her by surprise.
What?
I'm at the bottom already?
Your
She
skin
questioned,
reading.
looking over the scripture with her bright blue irises. To her surprise, she hadn't realized just how much she had ended up writing, each
A lot.
sentence being full of detail and descriptive terms that would even make the highest professors of Celestia's school bat an eye in awe. She pondered on her actions for a second, but was quickly startled by a sudden set of knocks from her bedroom door.
It's
Come
Twilight.
in.
Sunset proposed, rebounding from her overactive nerves still dancing at the sudden knocks.
Come in.
The luminescent golden aura engulfing her door handle immediately gave her assurance on who was behind the thick wooden door as it creaked open and revealed the mighty figure in the doorway.
Princess Celestia,
What are you doing here?
I wasn't expecting you.
Sunset addressed. Celestia merely smiled, walking further into the room and closing the door tightly with her magic.
No?
Sunset followed with the action of bowing in the presence of her mentor and matriarch, an action of which that Celestia shooed away with a hoof.
My dear,
My
you
dear.
need not bow before me.
You're my
Celestia
student.
cringed.
While I am your princess, you are my most loyal assistant. You are as much as a royal as I am.
Oh.
So there's no need for such gestures in my presence.
Aw.
Sunset rubbed the back of her neck, smiling and blushing in embarrassment upon her response.
Ow.
I suppose you are right.
She's very right.
After all, you are the teacher.
Nah, really?
Celestia nodded, working further into the room.
I saw that you and Twilight connected well.
Very
Just
well.
as I expected you would.
Yes.
Celestia stated.
Yeah.
It could have gone better. But I suppose after we got past all the little nooks and crannies, we really clicked well.
Yeah, we did.
Sunset
We did.
confirmed.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Celestia paused, her gaze meeting the massive piece of parchment upon the desk behind Sunset, as much as
Parchment?
its contents.
What's the contents then?
I see you have a report on how the meeting between you two went.
Sunset quickly responded, not wanting to present her mentor with an incomplete report.
Oh?
It's not quite finished yet.
No.
Still need to go over a few other things that we discussed.
Yeah.
Celestia nodded in assurance, continuing to eye the one thing of interest: its length.
Very
Judging
lengthy.
by the length of your report, you two seem to discuss much. I
Lots.
merely came to check on your progress, and I can see that it's coming along well.
Very well.
I look forward to seeing it complete in the morning.
Sunset smiled, watching
Yes,
as her mentor
Twilight.
walked toward the door,
Wings. And
turning
sunset.
to face her one
Celestia.
last time before her departure.
I'm proud of you, Sunset.
Very proud.
Celestia said in a motherly tone.
Aww.
I can assure you that you will come to learn more than I could ever teach you from Twilight.
Yeah.
Once you're finished, I want you to get some rest. No reading before bed tonight.
No.
Alright.
Sunset replied.
Alright.
simply. With that, Celestia turned from Sunset and exited the room, leaving Sunset to finish her assignment.
But Sunset's got a
Once
set
the
though.
door shut, Sunset turned back to her desk and met the view of the massive piece of literature sprawled out before her.
What literature?
Flipping over the elongated parchment, she dipped the quill into the inkwell once again and proceeded onward. taking careful note not to be so expressive with her wordplay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she might be needing more paper than she had at her leisure.
Yeah, leisure.
The following morning was the same as any other day as Sunset rose from her bed, proceeding with her usual everyday morning rituals such as bathing herself, fixing her mane and tail, brushing her teeth, and of course, flossing afterwards. With her mouth, coat, mane, and tail clean and neat, she grabbed her rolled up report and proceeded down to the dining room where she had breakfast with Celestia every morning.
She's not gonna be there, is she?
As always upon her arrival, Celestia was seated with a cup of morning coffee nested gently upon a coaster in front of her on the table. Sunset took a seat at the opposite end, resting her assignment upon the table and scooting the large chair closer to the table so she could reach whatever the royal cooks had brewed up for the morning meal.
What'd you cook then?
After taking a sip of her coffee and nestling it back onto the coaster, Celestia eyed Sunset nicely, following with a greeting.
Good morning,
Good
Sunset.
morning, Sunset.
Good
Did your
morning.
night go well?
Very well.
She proposed motherly.
Very.
Very. Really?
It didn't take long to finish up after you left. I found
You've-
my writing process to be a lot more consistent than usual.
You had a lot of writing anyway,
Sunset replied.
haven't you? I think.
Is that so?
Oh.
Usually you take your time in writing your reports.
Is it,
So what makes this an exception to your usual pace?
I don't know.
Celestia pondered. Off that statement, Sunset realized that the matriarch was being sarcastic,
Very
something that both enticed her and made her giggle at the same time in realization. Upon a sudden
Sorry.
aura of golden magic levitating her neatly organized homework to the opposite end of the table, Sunset made a remark of her own.
What? What's so funny?
I suppose you can say that, Little Philly has inspired me in my writing. Something tells me she has a lavender coat.
Yes.
Oh, and a heavy kink for magic.
Yes.
The joking caused both mares to burst in mild laughter.
That's like friendship sort of thing, isn't it?
I'm glad you see it the same as I do.
Oh?
Celestia confessed, bringing her intentions to light.
Now,
Now
let's
what-
see what you learn in your time with Twilight.
What?
Unrolling the scroll, double-sided with
Where is
text,
Twilight, actually?
Celestia read over the scripture, pausing now and then to take a small sip of coffee.
Is that the Bible?
Given the Alicorn's extensive experience in reading over any form of ink-made wording, it only took little time for Celestia to finish up, rolling up the report back to its original form beforehand. Upon one look
Before
from Celestia,
hoof!
however, Sunset felt a sudden chill go down her spine.
Oh?
I see that you have made a proposition to teach the Philly magical knowledge.
That was her job, wasn't it?
Celestia said calmly.
While I find this good, it also worries me.
Why?
Do you really feel like you are up to that sort of a proposition, Sunset?
Give her a
You are
chance!
proposing a very heavy responsibility that I fear you may not be able to uphold.
Thank you.
Sunset calmed herself, having overreacted upon Celestia's sudden glare after the scripture hiding her face had revealed the image now presented.
Yeah.
With a heavy exhalation of breath, she turned her attention back to Celestia, her nerves slowly calming back to a docile state.
Oh?
Why
What's
do
that
you
with-
say that?
What was the music?
You know that I'm more than capable of performing any spell you've taught me.
Sunset asked. Celestia paused, taking another sip of her morning drink.
Coffee.
After settling the cup back onto the coaster, she answered to Sunset's questions.
Go on then.
I don't doubt your magical abilities, my student.
What can you doubt then?
Celestia started with a hint of reassurance.
There's something up with Celestia there.
However,
However,
it takes
what?
more than magical experience to teach another such abilities. Especially somebody as fascinated with magic as Twilight.
Don't you
That
trust
comment took Sunset aback. She
What?
wasn't sure what to think about it. Twilight was a
Why did you
filly.
send it out in the first place
She's
then?
clearly the successor over a pony nearly half her age. So what did Celestia mean by all that she had just said? She had taken it as her
something
mentor
up
claiming
with
that
something's
Twilight
up
had
with
more
Celestia.
experience and skill with magic than she did, and that was enough to make her pause.
Are you saying that Twilight, a filly, has more magical abilities than me? A gros-mère?
Sunset stated with confusion.
Yes and no.
Oh, yes and no.
While Twilight is indeed a filly, and you are much older and mature than she is,
Yeah, that's true.
I have had my eye on Twilight for some time, and
Oh?
have seen differences in her magical abilities from the regular unicorn. Differences that you may not be able to withstand or control on your own, Sunset.
Really?
Celestia responded.
Something
with
is
strict
something
face.
is up now.
I'm
Really?
not sure I understand, Princess.
I don't understand either.
What kind of differences?
Yes, do
Sunset
tell.
pleaded mildly, now unsure of whether or not she wanted to go through with her proposition towards Twilight.
You kind of promised
I'm
her.
afraid it's not easy to explain, my dear.
No?
I only say these things for your own safety. Shall you
Safety?
choose to go through with this? All I ask is that you're careful in just what you teach the filly. She's more talented than you may think.
Oh?
Celestia confirmed,
Like, Twilight is hiding her magic
Sunset paused
ability.
again, thinking deeply and slowly starting to piece Celestia's words together. Eventually,
Yeah.
she began to understand her mentor's words and took it upon herself to memorize them well. All unicorns are different, and
Yeah, that's true.
Twilight, although she was a filly, was no exception to that concern.
Yeah.
I understand, Princess.
Do we?
You are right in one way.
Yeah.
But in another way, I
You're
feel
wrong.
like I should at least try to guide her. Don't worry. I'll start out with something simple and see if I can't spot these differences. that you
Differences.
spotted.
I knew that was coming.
Sunset clarified gently. Celestia nodded.
Yeah.
So be it then. Just remember what I said here, and be careful.
I
Very
will.
careful.
Sunset confirmed as she caught sight of the cooks bringing out multiple plates of food from the kitchen. She was presented with a massive stack of pancakes with a side of toast and a pot containing sweet maple syrup. As she grabbed her breakfast and placed it on her provided plate, she thought hard about all that Celestia had said, plaguing her mind with it by replaying them over and over
What is
like a broken record.
Sunset? Let's
She didn't
move.
know what to expect in her first meeting with the filly,
No.
but it was best to say that it was going to be an experience unlike any other.
Yeah. Is Twilight have more magic then?
Sunset had found an opening within the following week, and using the provided journal that all of Celestia's students were gifted to keep in touch with fellow students, she and Twilight had met up in the Canterlot Castle courtyard again. Sunset
Underneath
had
the tree.
decided to read up on lower-level spells for the occasion, just in case the lesson had gone any longer than she had intended.
What sort of lessons?
Regardless, she had a plan set for their first meet together as teacher and student, and as promised, Sunset kept Celestia's words of wisdom in her mind.
Yeah.
Twilight had already arrived when Sunset had exited the castle.
Of course,
catching
she's
the
a-
filly waiting
she
patiently
is-
from atop the
she's
staircase
bright-
that
she's
led from
there
the castle
bright and
into
early,
the
isn't
fences
she?
of trees, grass, and vegetation. She had expected this, having done the same in her years of being taught by Celestia.
Yeah.
It never earned her any sort of extra credit.
No?
But she didn't mind, being more interested in the knowledge than any sort of reward.
Yeah.
The reward was being one step closer to becoming a master of magic, and that was enough for her.
It's hard work though.
Pacing
magic.
herself across the courtyard, Sansa came to meet the filly, being greeted accordingly.
Good day, Mentor Sunset.
Twilight said.
Good
with
day to you,
utmost
too.
eagerness. Sunset couldn't help but giggle, feeling out of place in the endeavor.
Really?
Sunset is fine, Twilight. No need to address me as anything fancy.
No.
Sunset assured.
Sorry. I was
Bad
always
habit.
told to address any pony of higher stature properly.
That's true.
Twilight confessed.
No need to apologize. It's good that you were taught to do so.
Yeah.
But we're friends, so we should treat each other as we normally would in any other case.
Friends.
Sunset stated.
Got it.
Got it.
So, what are you going to be teaching me today?
Twilight finalized, changing the
To find
subject.
your Patronus.
Again,
Sorry.
Sunset wasn't shocked, knowing that Twilight was a very curious and anxious filly. So her hasty questioning didn't.
She's
seem
willing
out
to
of
learn
place
though.
and did.
Twilight's willing to learn something.
We're going to start with figuring out what needs to be addressed with your current knowledge on magic.
Oh?
Before we can start even thinking about learning spells, your preliminary actions must be addressed, along with your posture and etiquette.
Yeah.
Sunset explained nicely. Twilight
Posture?
raised an eyebrow,
Posture?
unsure of what Sunset was trying to make her understand. Sunset caught this and resorted to explaining the matter in a way a filly her age would understand.
Basically, we need to figure out if you are doing anything wrong that impacts how you do proper magic casting.
Well, concentrating? Yes.
Twilight mused, now understanding the
Oh.
aspect.
Oh.
Sunset made her way in front of Twilight so that both teacher and student were in tune with one another.
So, let's start off with you showing me how you go about casting a spell.
Oh, go on, Twilight.
Twilight nodded, then proceeded to getting into her usual position whenever she
Show me what you
attempted
can
to
do,
cast any
Twilight.
spell in the past. Spreading her forearms and forelegs apart, Twilight proceeded to what seemed like a culmination of massive struggle and expressions that no pony usually made in a public environment.
You're trying too hard.
Groans and heavy breathing followed in between the filly's attempt to spark her horn to life with magical energy. But they all failed, and Sunset had already spotted flaws in Twilight's posture.
Yeah.
Critical mistakes that explained why she wasn't even getting any sort of magical energy to manifest from her horn.
You're trying too hard.
That'll do, Twilight.
Sunset commanded, waving her hoof as a gesture to seize her actions.
You're trying too hard.
Twilight listened and stopped her fruitless attempts, breathing heavily and planting her flank on the grassy surface she stood upon.
What am I doing wrong?
You're trying too
She
hard.
pouted in irritation.
You're trying too hard.
Sunset explained,
Called
further,
it!
causing the filly to wince in curiosity and interest.
Oh dear.
Magic isn't something you can force out of you.
No.
It's something that must be guided very carefully.
Yeah.
Unicorn magic comes from the inner core of their being.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
only if it's channeled correctly can it arise from within.
Sunset paused for a
Concentration
brief glance at Twilight to make
is
sure
co-
she wasn't confusing the lavender filly. One glance,
Concentrating
and she saw that Twilight had
on the
taken full
spell, maybe?
understanding and interest at her teachings. Her head high, ears perked, and eyes focused on only her.
I
With
wonder
that
how.
assurance,
How do
she
unicorns
continued.
work though?
Like your soul, magic
Your
is a part of you.
That's true.
But to channel it, it takes more than just intense focus. There are many factors that play into bringing your magical energy to the surface.
Like what?
Everything that is a part of you must be in sync with it. Because, like I said, it is a part of you. Therefore, all that is part of you must be connected with your magic as well.
Really?
Only then can your magic connect to the main energy source that powers it.
Yeah.
My horn?
Yeah, sure.
Twilight guessed.
Yes.
Yes.
Sunset replied with a smile, continuing further.
Yes.
The horn is the part of every unicorn that connects with their core.
Basically,
body,
the
and
magic
soul.
wand.
It's connected to every layer of the unicorn's being. Their strengths, weaknesses, and emotions.
And your soul?
Twilight was beyond fascinated by all of this information, never realizing just how important a unicorn's horn really was.
Yes.
Along with the fact
It's important.
that it was like the epicenter of their body.
Yeah.
That explains why a unicorn loses the ability to perform any magic after so long. If the magic is connected to their strength, then any time you perform a massive amount of magic, you use a large amount of your physical strength as well.
That's true. You get
Twilight
tired.
exclaimed in astonishment.
You get tired over it, don't you?
Exactly, Twilight.
Well done! She's learning!
Sunset exclaimed herself.
I'm so sorry.
Amazed at just how well Twilight was catching on to the lesson.
Only when your magical energy is in tune with your being can it connect to the horn and be used at your leisure.
So,
The-
how exactly do you do that?
Twilight asked curiously.
Study?
That's what we're going to be working on first. Before you can channel your magical energy, you must know the proper preliminary actions to do said action. It's not something you will be able to learn in one try.
No.
And will more than likely take multiple lessons to learn naturally.
Like,
Only then will we even attempt channeling your magical energy to your horn.
reminds me of looping, actually.
Sunset answered.
How long did it take before you were ready?
Twilight asked.
5 years?
About 2 months.
Well, that's quick.
But remember, every unicorn is different, so it may be possible that you'll learn the preliminaries naturally in less time than I did. Or it may take longer than it took me. It's all in who you are and your will to learn the skill.
Twilight wanted to pout at that, but she
Yeah.
understood and stored everything Sunset had told her in her memory banks.
Oh, yeah?
I understand, Sunset Shimmer.
Well done.
Twilight assured.
Where do I start?
Sunset smiled at
from the
Twilight's
very-
understanding,
from the
proceeding
very-
further with the lesson.
From the very start.
Well, now that you've shown me where the problems that we need to address lie, it's time for you to watch and observe. I'm going to do the proper preliminaries for casting a spell now, and I want you to tell me what you notice that is different from your attempts.
Show and tell.
All
Watch
right.
and learn.
My eyes are open.
Twilight agreed.
Go for it.
Very good. Now, watch carefully.
Sunset stated nicely. Twilight didn't blink, watching as Sunset got into a position much like her own, and with all of her senses keen.
Is
to
it
the
like
demonstration,
meditation sort of thing?
Ophelia observed Sunset's lessons very carefully. The first thing she caught was that there was no struggling involved, and
No.
instead, her mentor was surprisingly calm and mellow in her stance.
Like,
Something she noted as she continued to
Like
observe
meditation.
the mirror before her.
like meditation, isn't it?
Like a spotlight, Twilight's gaze highlighted Sunset and only Sunset, as she saw
Yeah.
the appendage sticking out from her fiery mane become emblazoned with a light blue aura, encasing the horn and circling it in a
That's what it
repeating
did.
pattern.
That's what with Twilight
This
and
action repeated
uh,
until Sunset
Sakura.
retracted the magical energy and reassembled her regular posture, her
Yeah.
gaze meeting the Lavender Filly's own violet irises.
yeah.
So, what differences did you notice?
Sunset addressed.
You're calm and collective.
Well, there was no sign of struggle, and you were calm and unfazed the entire process.
I kind of said
Twilight
that.
replied, her teacher nodding as a response.
Very good, Twilight.
Well
You
done.
spotted the most critical aspect of casting or performing magic.
Yeah.
Just like any other task, such as eating or walking, you must be calm and not stiff. This leads to the next part of the lesson. Proper etiquette when casting a spell.
Oh.
Philly
How'd
was
you-
already intrigued.
Do you say the spell
so
in your
Sunset
mind, don't
wasted
you?
no time and continued onward. Now the lesson had truly started.
Yeah. Let's
Stance,
start.
posture, and etiquette are all key to casting a spell correctly and efficiently, my friend.
That's true.
You did have the proper stance, but everything that followed was wrong. Your assumption was that if you struggle hard enough, magic will spark from your horn,
No.
when in reality, all that'll do is give you a massive headache and burst blood vessels.
Yeah, it's
The
dangerous.
true way to cast a spell is to calm your body and let the magic flow naturally. The first step to keeping yourself calm is to breathe naturally at your usual pace.
Breathe
Lack
in,
of oxygen
breathe
is
out.
one of the easiest ways to send your body into a state of panic, feeling like you can't breathe. Slow and steady breaths are what you want to do
Slow
in
and
the
steady,
case of casting or
cast a
performing
spell.
magic. You want casting and performing magic to feel like a natural thing, not as something that is outside of your ability as a unicorn. As natural as eating, sleeping, walking, basically any natural function you do in your everyday life.
Yeah.
Second is posture.
Sit down.
You want your airway to be as open as possible, so
Well.
your breaths can repeat in an equal and calm pattern.
How do you...
Therefore, your body should be narrow, your hooves spread apart, but steady enough, and your head up to where your airway is straight and not constricted.
But what about magic
With
when you
this
actually
posture,
on the move?
Your body is calm and you are able to remain calm. Lastly is the most important part of calming your body.
How?
Calming your mind while still maintaining focus. If you follow the proper etiquette that I just advised,
It kind of reminds me
this
of,
step is already being accomplished.
we
While
do,
performing your mind must have focus. Focus is the key to controlling a spell
That thing.
and keeping your magic tamed. But
Yeah.
we'll discuss that when you actually manage to channel your magic to your core and horn.
you could do it, Twilight.
Understood.
Twilight agreed, still intrigued and fascinated by the information and teachings of her friend.
Good.
It's like apparition, isn't it?
Now,
Apparate.
I want you to try again.
How?
But this time, I want you to do your best to follow the steps I just taught you.
Sure, get on the first
Sunset
try.
replied,
Okay. I'll do my best, Sunset.
That's a
Twilight
spirit.
agreed. Sunset nodded, watching her student with observant eyes as she proceeded forward with the command she had given. Twilight spread her legs apart to the point of where she could still stand without feeling clumsy, closed her eyes, and held her head high to where her airway was no longer constricted, doing her best to breathe normally and isolate her mindset to only her reason for doing these actions.
Go on, Twilight, you can do
For a
it.
while, nothing happened, but Sunset still observed Twilight like a predator waiting to pounce on its prey, and was honestly shocked on how well Twilight was managing on her first attempt at proper magic casting etiquette. Twilight had begun to feel the same, feeling her body fall into a natural rhythm like her friend and teacher had explained earlier in the lesson.
You're in
She wondered if
Are
she
you in
could
a meditation?
stop,
Are you in
but
a...
kept the stance,
You're in a
preferring to
meditation
wait
state.
until Sunset advised her to stop. Many minutes passed, and the natural flow continued to envelop Twilight's small body, not even aware that her mind had met the demands of her mentor as well, being calm and unfazed by any of her surroundings. A
You
breeze
medi-
blew, but Twilight remained
You're
focused.
meditating, aren't you?
She was as still as a statue, unmoved by nature, and by the time Sunset finally told her to stop, it had been a time period of 20 minutes.
Wow.
That's enough, Twilight. You can stop now.
You can stop, Twilight.
Sunset commanded. As instructed, Twilight came out of the posture and eyed her mentor with curious eyes.
How did I do?
Very
Twilight
good.
asked,
Fantastic! Definitely not what I expected out of a first attempt.
Sunset answered.
Really?
Sunset's response came out as if she had just discovered an ancient equestrian artifact,
Oh,
which
sweet
caught
bro.
Twilight's attention.
Did I do something wrong?
No.
Twilight mused.
No,
No.
you exceeded my expectations.
You pass.
I think that's a good place to end the lesson. You've learned enough for one day. And once you get down the entire concept of the etiquettes,
Yes.
we'll work on channeling your magic. In the meantime, just keep practicing that same posture in your spare time.
Just keep practicing.
and
Just
we'll
keep
pick up on
practicing.
it during our next lesson.
Well done, Twilight.
Sunset replied. Sunset felt as if she were speaking nonsense, considering what she had just experienced. A
What?
filly had just performed proper magic etiquette as if it were nothing more than filly's play. She was beginning to understand
Finish
what
play.
Celestia had meant.
Seriously,
by having
Sparrow!
differences in terms of magical abilities.
Is this your story, though?
This attempt wasn't just a
Finish
fluke or
play!
beginner's
Seriously! Well done.
Everything okay, Sunset?
Yes,
flash.
everything's
Twilight
fine.
sympathized.
Or is it?
Sunset hadn't realized just how obvious she had made her thoughts on Twilight's overly progressive first attempt visible on her face, causing her to cuss at herself in her mind.
Yeah, everything is fine, Twilight. I guess you could say I'm just impressed at your first attempt.
Very
And
impressed.
the fact that I know our lessons together are going to be interesting.
And harder.
I have much to report to Princess Celestia about you and your progress.
Well done.
Twilight smiled as a result.
I
feeling
think
for the
I
first
think
time in her
Celestia
short
already
life,
knows
she had
about this.
succeeded at something she had been studying and trying to accomplish for years. To further express her gratitude and excitement, she embraced her mentor and friend in a tight hug, surprising Sunset at first. But once she realized what was happening, she just returned to the kind act with her hooves wrapping around the filly that was her student.
Yeah.
Releasing the hug, the two mares departed, returning to their respective homes within the city. Sunset had
How
much
big
to
is,
write and report on this session,
how
and
big
Twilight
is,
had more practicing to
Cancelot?
do. With every step she took, all Sunset could
Every
feel was
step
a
I
warmth and sense
take,
of accomplishment,
every move I
something she hadn't
make.
felt since her enrollment as Princess
Sorry.
Celestia's protege.
Sorry.
And she knew deep down that as these lessons continued, things were only going to get all the more interesting if that day's events were only one sample of what her student was capable of.
And harder. What's outside music?
The
man?
lessons had continued, along with Sunset relaying the filly's progression in magic after each of them to Princess Celestia.
Yeah.
And within only a year of lessons between the two mares, Twilight had become attuned
Okay,
to
years
magical
passing.
abilities. The following lesson had focused on Twilight channeling her magic from her core to her horn, and while it did take a few hours, the filly had achieved the goal of the session. After that, the lavender unicorn had begun to grow into a master.
A master.
Sunset was amazed at Twilight's
A
progress,
a
and she
master.
had achieved
Sorry.
her goals rather quickly.
Yeah.
Something that not most unicorns accomplish so easily.
No.
It had taken her years to get to where Twilight had grown within only a few months, but she didn't see it as anything abnormal or anything to get jealous over. If anything, she was more proud than anything else, especially considering how the two had met, and now they were nearly inseparable as mentor and student.
And friend.
Sunset had learned much in her time teaching Twilight as well,
Yeah.
both about her student and herself.
How can I have chance
She had
pictures?
learned what Celestia had intended from the start.
Yeah.
There's more to life than just studying on something she had become a master at. And in her time with Twilight, she had come to see that mentoring others in something and guiding them to become masters at it was
Yeah.
a thrilling sensation that she couldn't explain. It was a wholesome feeling.
You're
and over
good.
the time she
You're a
had
good
been
teacher,
teaching Twilight,
Sunset.
she never thought she would come to develop such a close bond with a filly nearly half her age. All she knew was one thing.
What's that?
Her student and friend would grow to be a master of sorcery, and she couldn't be more proud.
Well done.
However, there were some that saw Twilight's learning progression as something more malevolent and potentially a sign of danger. Especially after
Danger?
what happened when Twilight earned her cutie mark.
Oh, what's that?
Celestia had grown curious on just how advanced Twilight's magical abilities had become. So
Very,
she decided to
very
test them.
advanced. How?
Sunset saw it as odd, but figured it was also a good way to see for herself just how far her student had come in her lessons. And
Oh?
as a good mentor would act, encouraged her student to take on the challenge.
Yeah.
The whole endeavor was pretty simplistic.
What's
All
that?
Twilight had to do was perform spells accordingly, the range of spells going from simple to more advanced. Depending on how Twilight's experience was, determined just how good of a magician she was at that current time.
Tell
The
me.
result was unlike anything Equestria had ever seen.
Oh?
I'm not sure if I can do this, Sunset.
You can do it.
I've never had to perform spells in such succession before. And with the princess watching, it just makes me more nervous.
Calm down,
Twilight
Twilight.
said with worry in her voice. Sunset stood before her anti-student, trotting in circles in a frazzled manner. She could feel where Twilight was coming from in the moment, seeing she had been here before.
Yes, she has.
It was nerve-wracking to be put in such a position, so she knew she had to reassure her student for her to succeed.
You can do it, Twilight.
Twilight, look at me.
Sunset said with mild sternness, catching Twilight's attention.
You need to calm down if you even want to have a chance at succeeding. Remember our first lesson together?
Yes, all those years ago.
Twilight nodded.
Good.
Good.
Then what is the main thing that you need to be in order to cast spells accordingly?
Sunset assured.
Calm and collected.
Twilight let out a long breath she had been holding unintentionally.
I need to be calm in both my body and mind.
Yeah.
Correct.
Sunset confirmed.
That is some
then
nice
smiled
fat
along
shots,
at her student.
Sparrow. Oh, wow.
Don't think of this as a challenge,
No.
but more as any other lesson with me.
Well done.
Just picture yourself in the courtyard with me guiding you on how to cast
She hasn't
spells.
got a coom up there.
I'll be watching you from the stands. And if anything goes wrong, then just yell something as an alert and I'll get you out. Okay?
Okay.
Another long sigh escaped Twilight's mouth.
Is this
as
the
she
one
listened
with
to her best friend and mentor
turning,
with all the confidence
getting
she
Spike
could
out the
possibly
egg?
have expressed.
Is it that magical spell?
Okay,
Okay.
I'll do my best.
You can do it.
She muttered softly, with a slight shakiness in her voice.
Now there's the Twilight I know.
Ah.
Keep that attitude in mind and you'll succeed with no trouble.
Where are we?
Sunset stated with confidence. Twilight smiled and hugged Sunset as an assurance before they parted ways.
They're
Sunset
not more.
returns the
They're
hug,
not more like
and with
horse
one
like there.
final smile, she left Twilight to go join Celestia and company within the stands. With a deep breath and long
Whoa,
exhalation,
more
Twilight
big.
walked forward.
That
into
is
the
a lot of
scene
ponies.
Like a massive coliseum. She eyed the stands as she walked to the center of the massive structure, noticing Celestia, Sunset, and some other fellow company with
That's good
clipboards
artwork there.
and pencils placed behind their ears, seated. Once she was in the center of the room, she stopped and waited for any further instructions. Silence filled the sound waves for a moment before she was addressed by Princess Celestia herself.
What?
Twilight Sparkle. You will be tested on your magical knowledge, starting from the simplest of sorcery to some of the most advanced and difficult of spells that most unicorns cannot handle.
Celestia confirmed, continuing.
Yeah.
Your magical ability will be judged by your response time to the spell you are tasked with,
Oh.
and your mental and physical state in between casting these spells.
This
If
is
at
like.
any time you feel like you are unable to perform or hold a spell, alert us immediately, and we will stop the challenge. Are you ready?
Yes.
Twilight nodded as response,
Yes.
signaling for the challenge to begin.
We are ready.
Very well. We will start with a simple spell.
What simple
Please
simple
perform
spell?
a general light spell.
Celestia assured.
Basic spell.
Twilight didn't see this as a challenge, and with a flicker of magical energy upon her horn, she cast a light spell with ease, holding it just in case it was necessary to impress what she assumed were judges.
Well done, Twilight.
Well done. You
Please
passed.
release the spell.
Celestia said nicely.
Please release the spell.
Twilight followed, suppressing her focus and allowing the light spell to shimmer out.
Shimmer
She didn't get
out.
comfortable, though, knowing that this challenge was far from over, and the spells were only going to get more...
There's more.
Continue
Yeah,
forward.
there's gonna be more spells.
Your response time was excellent, and your current state is stable.
Well done.
We will now proceed to the next spell.
What's
Please
next spell?
perform a levitation spell on the objects that will be presented.
Wingardium Leviosa!
Timing will start once the spell is cast.
Well done. Go for it.
Celestia said. Twilight awaited the objects to manifest before her, but was surprised to see them being wheeled in on a long cart by another unicorn.
The egg!
Upon the cart were 3 objects: an apple, a table, and a large boulder twice her size.
Mod!
She grew nervous about the boulder, wondering if she even had the strength to lift something of that size and weight. Sunset saw this too, finding it strange that for a level 2 spell challenge, it was something of this magnitude. She didn't say anything though, and only
No.
watched in anticipation as the challenge started.
She can do it though, she can
With
do it.
careful focus, Twilight engulfed the apple in a magic aura and levitated it with ease.
Well done.
It remained airborne for a few seconds, then she released the delicious fruit, settling it back on the cart gently.
Well done.
Next came the table, which she quickly blanketed with her magenta magic and proceeded to lifting it from its surface upon the cart.
Well done, Twilight.
Upon lifting the wooden table, Twilight had begun to struggle, having never lifted something of this size in any of Sunset's lessons regarding levitation. She had only ever lifted simple things like sticks and small rocks.
Sticks
Never
and
something of
stones.
such heft like a solid wooden table. She was about to call it quits, up until she remembered what Sunset had told her before entering the room.
What's that? Ask for help.
Don't think this as a challenge, but more as any other lesson with me. Just picture yourself in the courtyard with me guiding you on how to cast the spells.
While it costed her
Go
time,
on.
she didn't have any other choice.
You can
Closing
do it,
her eyes and
Twilight.
putting herself in a setting of the Canterlot courtyard.
You
with
can do
Sunset's
it, you can do 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 it, you can do
It
it.
worked perfectly, as she felt the table start to lift from the cart, increasing the heft by a ton, but she just kept her focus and kept her mindset within the same setting of the meeting place where she and Sunset engaged in magical lessons. The table remained airborne for a few seconds, then with ease, Twilight placed the table back upon the cart.
Well done.
Her success had caught the attention of all in attendance, shocked that a filly of her size had succeeded in something that most fillies would never be able to do. It wasn't easy in the
boulder.
slightest, but regardless of the difficulty, Twilight remained focused on the task at hoof.
Yeah.
Her gaze turned to the massive boulder that she had yet to lift.
Well done,
trying to
Boulder.
keep her breathing and body calm. She
Hold
knew
this-
it was
hold this,
going to
Boulder.
take all of her strength to accomplish this feat.
You
So
can
she
do
just
it.
focused her magic on the boulder, quickly becoming encased in her magic aura, and lifted.
Go on.
Immediately, the magic aura shimmered out, and Twilight fell back on the ground with a grunt. The weight of the boulder had caused her to lose focus almost immediately, feeling
Yeah.
as if her magical energy
Ooh.
had ricocheted backwards and hit her with a force so powerful that it had caused her to lose nearly all of her physical strength.
It's
Sunset
hard
became
work.
worried in the mix of the challenge and eyed her student, struggling to get up from the ground from the result of the impact she had taken. Sunset wanted to say something, but she didn't want to jump to expectations and gave a moment to see what would happen next.
It's gonna burst out of her, isn't it?
I can't give up now.
Twilight
No, you can't give
tried to
up.
herself. Regaining her balance and breathing heavily, Twilight once again refocused her magic on the boulder. The massive object grew closed in a magic aura once again.
Yeah.
And with all of her focus, Twilight proceeded to lifting the giant rock. The
Go
monolith
on.
shook upon the cart, the magical energy fading in and out in between Twilight's groans and heavy breaths.
Come on, you can do it,
The
you can do
shaking
it.
suddenly began to cause the audience to stir in bewilderment, looking upon a filly on the verge of performing a task no filly had ever succeeded in.
Or dead.
But just as soon as the awe and shock came, it left all the same, Twilight falling back on her flank once again.
Oh, dear.
The boulder had become unstable, and as a result, the monolith had begun to fall from the cart right in the direction of Twilight,
Oh, dear.
unstable and physically unable to respond. The horror had begun to unfold at a fast pace, as the scene played out like a culmination of creeping death. Sunset saw it first, and didn't hesitate to act in response.
What?
She attempted to focus her magic on the rock, but for some reason, found her magical energy blocked off.
What?
She tried recasting multiple times, but it was no use. And in the stir of the
Anti
moment, all
cheating?
she could do was yell.
Twilight! Get out of the way!
Sunset shouted as loud as possible. Twilight merely heard the words, and only managed to turn and see the inevitable end for her. The giant beast of a rock creeped downward, closing in on her like a giant maw of a beast engulfing her. She wanted to scream, but found she couldn't.
No.
And only one thing came to her in a sudden onset of memories.
What's that?
She had to save herself.
How?
The boulder was inches from killing her when she acted in quick succession, and in one last-ditch effort, focused her magic again on the object that filled her vision. The magical energy stirred around the giant maw, and Twilight pushed as hard as her body's strength could muster upward.
Go on, go on.
The boulder didn't seem like it was even going to budge.
No?
Twilight didn't give up and just continued.
You can't give up now, Twilight.
Of her might. The audience had come to terms that the filly was doomed, and Sunset had fallen to tears. But upon a glance, her tears receded, watching in unbelievable awe and shock at the sight of the boulder, airborne.
Wow.
Engulfed in a bright and luminescent magenta light, the monolith that was moments away from ending Twilight's life remained in the air, a struggling filly holding her own in a mix of unlimited drama, horror, and sadness.
Well?
But this wasn't the same as any other time Twilight had cast a spell.
No?
This was different.
It was?
Her horn was aglow with unbelievable fiery magical light, and her body surrounded by a light unlike anything Ponykind had ever saw.
Bright
She was
light.
still in control, and the boulder only continued to levitate higher and higher. Sunset and the others could only watch the phenomenon in complete shock and horror at what they were witnessing.
What were they
And it only grew
witnessing?
more and more astonishing as the light engulfing Twilight grew brighter and
And
brighter.
brighter. Yeah.
Then it happened.
What happened?
Magical surges began to pulsate from the filly's horn.
She's getting a Kutama! She's getting a Kutama! She's getting her Kutama, isn't she?
Fiery beams shot outward as well, striking the stand and slowly but surely destroying them.
Wow.
Every pony within the stands didn't hesitate and quickly evacuated their seated areas, running to the nearest exit.
She's gonna explode!
Except Sunset, who took the liberty of running to her friend's aid. She just ran endlessly until she was at Twilight's side, and only placed a hoof upon the filly's shoulder within an aura of emblazoned light. She didn't care if she got hurt anymore.
No.
She just wanted her friend and student safe.
Very safe.
Upon the contact with Sunset's hoof,
That
Twilight
is
turned
some
to
magical
its mentor
ability there.
and immediately calmed, releasing the boulder from its magical prison and the magical light fading away.
Yeah.
Sunset worked quick to get Twilight out of the way of the descending boulder, not
Yeah.
risking her magic not being able to save them.
Wow.
She grabbed the filly and
That is
darted
one big
quickly out of
boulder.
the way of the monolith, hearing it hit the ground with a massive boom. Both
Oh,
mares
God.
breathed heavily in fear and relief, standing up and looking at the massive object that had collided onto the surface of the Colosseum. It would have easily crushed both of them had it not been for quick action in the moment of impact. Neither of them spoke, and only hugged in relief that the horror show was over.
Oh
They knew
dear.
that there was many questions needed to be answered.
Why?
The whole endeavor only grew more mysterious upon one glance upon Twilight's flank, where a cutie mark now resided. Instead of celebration, all that followed was looks of absolute confusion, horror, relief, and wonder.
Slightly different gun
It
Spike.
only grew worse upon Celestia's
Yay, she got a cutie mark,
of
but-
many mixed emotions.
Dangerous!
I don't know what to say.
So sorry?
Celestia muttered. Sunset eyed Celestia with fiery eyes, knowing that there was more to this than Celestia was saying.
Yeah.
A number of things didn't make sense, and she intended to find out the truth behind said matters.
Twilight, you go with the guards. Princess Celestia, I'd like to speak with you in private.
Alone.
Sunset ordered.
Oh.
Celestia winced at the command.
She's not very happy.
Very well, Sunset.
Twilight only shivered in fear.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
It's
Sunset
not your-
hushed Twilight.
It's not your fault, Twilight.
We know, Twilight, and none of this is your fault. Go with the Royal Guard. They'll escort you to safety.
Twilight bowed her head, then proceeded to following the Royal Guard out of the building.
You did wrong, Celestia.
Clear. Sunset turned to Celestia with a look of rage.
How dare you?
Mind explaining why this happened, Your Highness?
Sunset questioned indignantly. Celestia jumped at the accusation and followed up.
I don't understand, Sunset.
Don't lie! Who else can block magical energy from being cast?
Sunset snapped back.
What are you talking about,
I
Sunset?
know that music.
Celestia replied with slight hurt.
I know the music, but oh my god.
Sunset drew in closer to further express her current emotions.
I tried to save Twilight from the boulder by lifting it with my own magic. But for some odd reason, my magic was blocked. And
Why?
if it weren't for Twilight's will to live, she would have died!
Sunset paused before continuing further with more accusations.
Another thing! Who the buck gives a filly a boulder to levitate?
Yeah!
I knew very well that Twilight was still lifting small objects, because you read my reports.
Celestia's tone grew more firm in her response.
It was to push her harder, Sunset. A filly must be pushed if she's ever going to succeed.
You never pushed me that hard! I don't
Yes.
know what kind of sick game you were playing today, but I know it was you. No pony else in the room is capable to block spellcasting. Except you!
Sunset exclaimed.
She's pissed.
Did you
Peeved.
ever stop to think that Twilight's sudden magical surge may have had something to do with it?
Yes.
Twilight wasn't even in that state when I first tried to save her. Stop making excuses and admit that you planned all of this. Are you jealous that I have my own student? Is that why you tried to kill her?
A pause followed those words, and in that time, Celestia's demeanor had to change, and Sunset felt a chill go down her spine at the sight of her once mentor.
You must understand, Sunset.
Oh god.
I never intended to hurt you.
You didn't?
I had set you up with Twilight to extinguish a problem that I had seen coming for a long time.
She is fucking sinister.
Powerful.
Sorry.
Powerful. We all witnessed it today.
Yes.
She's
We
a
did.
threat to Equestria. And I would have hoped you would have seen it before this all happened. Her power exceeds my own, and that is just simply something I cannot condone within my kingdom.
What?
It's the same reason why I killed my sister.
What?
That quote made Sunset's blood run cold. For the longest time, she had thought that the tale of the Mare and the Moon was true, but now hearing this, she was speechless and baffled in complete horror.
She looks like a
Only
mad.
got worse
She looks like
as
a mad
Celestia continued.
alicorn now.
Luna had hidden potential, and I had seen it from day one. The whole story of the Mare and the Moon is just a cover-up for what really happened that night. Stars rolled.
You fucking troll!
And was even going to work on helping her unleash the full potential she
She
had
does look
inside
sinister.
her.
She does look sinister
I
there.
was always the fairy.
Thank you, Sweetie
I
Belle.
could never get anything right. The one who always slaved over their wants and needs.
Yeah.
I grew tired of it, and got rid of the only obstacle in my path to becoming a ruler.
What?
How could you do that? She was your sister.
Sunset's voice had fallen to a near whisper.
I did what I had to do.
Oh my
before.
god!
No pony, especially a filly, is going to destroy what I've worked to become.
It's almost like 3D.
You, Sunset. You and I are not much different, so I figured you see the danger that Twilight threatened to our rule. You saw it
God.
yourself. Her hidden potential has been realized, but she has no idea how to harness such power. We must stop her from becoming greater than both you and I.
Look at those fucking teeth.
Celestia's tone had grown more malevolent.
Yeah.
Sunset shivered in absolute fear and disgust. She had no idea what she was witnessing.
No.
And just wanted to wake up from the twisted dream she had fallen into.
It's a nightmare.
She blinked multiple times, but nothing happened.
No.
Celestia only capitalized off of that.
My dear protege, why do you resist? Don't become one of them. Not when we're so close to running a threat to our rule.
You're the fucking threat.
Celestia cooed. Sunset's voice was shaky.
What are you talking about?
She's a murderer.
Celestia followed up with a giggle that made every speck of fur on Sunset's body stand up straight.
Do you think that you are my first and only protege? Dear
What?
Sunset, I've had many other proteges in my lifetime as the ruler of Equestria. But
You murdered them?
unfortunately, they were all the same in the end. They all resisted me, and I had to rid the problematic unicorns that have found their way into my school on my own. Don't be like them, Sunset.
Oh god.
Take your place by my side on the throne and destroy Twilight Sparkle.
Why?
Sunset had no idea what to do. She knew she couldn't run, use magic, or resist. She just stood in absolute horror at the realization that her former mentor
She's got more
was a
power, hasn't she?
murderer, and didn't hesitate to bring any pony down to keep her title as Princess Celestia clean.
Oh my god.
She was in a temporary state of shock and fear,
Yeah.
and all she could do was stand in absolute horror.
Horror.
So, my dear, what will it be? You know you can't use magic because I can block it with ease. And you can't outrun me or outsmart me because I taught you everything you know. So, will you become one with the other proteges that have failed me?
Why?
Or will you be smart and follow through with killing Twilight Sparkle?
What?
I don't even know who you are anymore.
No, I don't either.
So heartless and disgraceful to the very subjects that you were supposed to protect and guide.
Sunset exclaimed. Celestia followed.
She is a, she's
But Amir no longer
she's a maniac. She's a
and kind
psychopath.
usually
She
had.
is,
All that stood before Sunset's gaze now.
she needs to be
was
killed.
sinister and psychopathic.
Well, Cecil needs to be killed, not Twilight.
Eyeing her with a look of malevolence and pure evil.
Dear Sunset, have you not learned anything?
What?
If you wish to rule, you must destroy any who stand in your way, and eliminate any who threaten to ruin all that you have worked so hard to gain!
Calm the fuck
Celestia
down.
questioned with indignance. Sunset wanted to vomit. She had no
dear.
idea what to do, and scavenged her thoughts for any spells that may free her from this inescapable proposition that she knew had nothing but a grim ending for her. She dug into the
She
deepest
almost looks
recesses
like a
of her
skull
mind for
there.
Anything that could
Anything.
in this situation.
I will not ask again, Sunset. Are you going to aid me in destroying Twilight, or will I have to do it myself?
Oh God.
Celestia spoke with demented sternness. Sunset knew that exclamation was
Take
no
it!
bluff.
Eat a Snickers! Eat a
Celestia
Snickers!
was
Eat a
dead
Snickers!
serious, and it was now or never. She had to decide between killing her friend or joining the other proteges in death.
Oh dear. I'm sorry.
Sunset trailed off, bracing herself for the worst.
Yes?
Yes?
Celestia questioned, knowing she had Sunset pinned in a position where she couldn't escape.
You're trapped. Oh God. Click here for one ending. Click here for the other ending. Which one would you choose?